This week on HomeKit News, the Roborock S6 MaxV Ultra. Welcome back everybody. Today's item is Roborock's flagship robot vacuum, the S6 MaxV Ultra, billed as an intelligent floor cleaning robot, which is a bit of an understatement as you'll see later. I'm not new to robot vacuums, having recently reviewed the SwitchBot K10 Pro, and prior to that I've been using a Roborock S6 for about 5 years, so I'm well acquainted with Roborock in particular. Before we go too deep into the video, it's important to know why this product is relevant to the channel. So first of all, whilst the CSA website and Roborock press release state the S6 MaxV Ultra is Matter certified, according to Roborock's consumer website, that update has yet to be applied via a future update. As it stands, robot vacuums in Apple Home are a thing, but it's only on or off at present, so you're not really missing anything. Still, the Roborock app supports Siri shortcuts and actually does a pretty good job of it, hence the relevance to the channel. Even if you're not an Apple user, voice control is still an option, as you'll see later. Back to the device in question, and the S6 MaxV Ultra actually comes in two formats. In both, the vacuum itself is exactly the same, it's just the docking station that differs between the two. The model I'm reviewing today comes with separate containers for clean and dirty water, as well as a disposable dust bag, so it's self-enclosed. The other model is designed to connect to your water mains, allowing clean water to be added to the S6 directly from your home, as well as empty any dirty water the same way. The S6 does actually come in two models. We have the S6 MaxV Ultra, priced at an admittedly eye-watering $1,800, with the V standing for video, I believe, as it comes with a built-in RGB camera. Now, whilst the S6 Max Ultra uses the same docking station, the vacuum lacks an RGB camera found in the MaxV, but it's also $200 cheaper. The S6 MaxV is itself an upgrade from the S7 MaxV, which I believe is still available for purchase. For a fuller picture of the difference in features, you can pause the video here and check through the comparison chart. With all that out the way, let's see what's in the box. So the first thing is an enormous quick start guide, which helps you get it all set up, including via the Roborock app. The biggest part by far is the docking station, which we'll look at in more detail in a bit. Then we have the S6 MaxV Ultra itself, of course. There's a power cable for the docking station, which in my case happens to be suitable for Europe, but it's a standard C13 power cable, which is easy enough to replace. There's a dock base that allows the Roborock to climb into the docking station, and one spare disposable dust bag is provided, with one already installed inside the docking station. And finally, a series of booklets, one of which is a sort of cheat sheet for the S6's built-in voice assistant, which we'll also look at later. When it comes to features, this thing has a ton, so I'll try and run through them all very quickly. Now, it has a Flexi-arm that pops out, allowing it to not only reach in corners, but under hard-to-reach areas too. It uses something called Vibrise 3 sonic mopping for your floors, scrubbing up to 4,000 times per minute, but it also lifts the mop when in vacuum-only mode, lifts the brush in mop-only mode, or lifts both when returning to the dock. Suction power offers up to 10,000 pascals compared to just 5,100 on the S7 MaxV Ultra, so almost double the power. AI obstacle avoidance is used in conjunction with the built-in camera, which also includes a built-in fill light when in the dark. Now, even though you can use Siri via shortcuts, the S6 has its own voice assistant built in called Rocky that can do more than Siri in certain situations. Onto the docking station now, which actually cleans the mop with hot water going to 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It auto empties the vacuum of dust and hair into the disposable bag. It'll refill the vacuum's water tank for the next mopping session, as well as remove any dirty water. The dock can also dry the mop using hot air and even cleans itself as well to keep everything as clean as possible. There is an option to also add a cleaning solution to a separate tank, although this isn't provided and is optional. Let's take a closer look now, starting with the docking station. So if I remove the front faceplate, you can, amongst other things, access the disposable dust bag. This simply pulls out and seals the bag so dust doesn't start billowing out everywhere. Simple but effective. Next to this is a removable container which is meant for adding a cleaning solution. This gets mixed in with clean water as it's added to your RoboVac, so you don't have to mix it yourself, which is the case with the S7 MaxV. This cleaning solution is entirely optional, so water alone is okay to use. As I mentioned, water, and so too water tanks, which are situated at the top of the dock here. They're simply removed using the integrated handles, and you can see a connector that draws clean water from the tank for use in the S8. I'll remove the dirty water tank and you can see further connections here. With these handles they're easy to carry and remove, but there's also clips to hold the lid in place. Now you probably can't see, but the clean water tank has piping to send water to the S8. The dirty water tank only receives dirty water, so there are no extra pipes. Onto the RoboVac itself now, and just for a quick comparison, here's the S8 next to my old S6. The details have changed, but the basic shape and size remain the same. The top section of the S8 has a removable plate to get to the dust box, although as it's self-emptying, you'll rarely need to access it aside from changing the filter. Also found underneath the cover is a reset button if required. There are 3 physical buttons on top of the S8, one to return it to the dock, one to pause or start the robot, and a third button to act as both a child lock and a mop only option. The small turret on top is for the LiDAR sensor, voice control, and for audio in video calls. The logo also glows when the voice assistant is listening for a command.
I'm here.
The side features the aforementioned Flexi-arm for picking up dirt and hairs, with the small edgewise circular mop behind that to clean skirting boards, or baseboards as they're called in the US. For mopping, you don't get 2 circular brushes, but instead a flat cloth mop panel. However, this mop panel does vibrate 4,000 times per minute, as previously mentioned, thanks to a couple of vibrating modules. Along with these, there are 2 small water dispensers to keep the mop wet. The S8 also comes with dual rubber roller brushes that go in opposite directions to more efficiently capture as much dirt and debris as possible. Aside from the built-in voice assistant, which we've still got to get to, the star of the show for me is probably the RGB camera, with which, amongst other things, you can view a live stream directly from the robot, but it's also designed to work with AI to identify up to 72 different types of object, as small as 5 centimeters wide and 3 centimeters tall. It also uses a technology called Dirtect, a sort of portmanteau of dirt and detect basically, which can analyze dirt and adaptively clean based on that analysis. So the S8 is all set up, but I wanted to show you one reason vacs are so important to us at least. We also have a Dyson Gen 5 Detect Absolute, and it's not cheap at a bit under $1,000, but it has this special green LED that highlights the stuff you can't usually see, which is mostly due to our dog and his constant shedding of fur. Surprising, right? Back to the S8, and I've set it up to do a zone clean. Now if you choose to do both mop and vacuum, there is a short delay where the dock will wet the mop and the side mop first. So as you can see, it always does a clean around the edge of the zone first, then goes back and forth in a pattern that can be set to match the direction of your floorboards, which is quite nice, which also helps to get to the dirt in between each of those floorboards. I'll now remove the dirty water container to dispose of it, and as you can see, it certainly did pick up some dirt. Any clean you perform can clean in normal or fast mode, so in this example you can see the difference between normal and fast. It would seem that it cleans with a slightly broader stroke essentially, so the cleaning area is covered less intensely. Now this is ideal for quick cleans, with deeper cleaning useful for when time is less of an issue. Even though these routes are the 2 standards, there are actually even deeper cleaning options for both the mop and the vacuum. Quickly onto the Flexi-arm now, that's designed to reach deeper into corners, and it does the job just as expected, as you can see here. Here it is again in slow motion, so you can see the brush getting right into the corner. The S8 has a feature that can lift the mop, the brushes, or both if need be, and in this first example I've set it to zone clean but vacuum only, so you can see the mop is already lifted and stays that way. Only the rollers stay in contact with the surface in this case. The next example is for mopping only, and if you watch carefully you'll see the mop lowered once it begins its zone clean. Once complete, the mop is raised to go back to the dock. Here's a closer look so you can see the mop lowered, and once again it raises the mop upon completion. One important feature for RoboVacs is obstacle avoidance, which seems to get better the more money you spend. No surprise there. Now I've set up 6 tests for the S8, although I couldn't find a fake dog poop on this occasion. Sorry. What we have here are a black sneaker, an indoor sandal, a pair of ankle socks, a power supply and a tower fan, with an additional test in the power cable connected to the fan. So let's see how it performs. Now I've sped up the video so as not to bore you, but as you can see it manages to avoid every object in its path, which is what it should do for that price. If I go into the Roborock app now, you can see the progress it made, as well as correctly identifying each item it avoided using clickable icons on the floor plan. So the first one is the cord for the fan, which is identified as a cord or wire. It also identified the pedestal for the tower fan, which my other robots would simply drive over. It correctly recognised both the sneaker and sandal as footwear, so that's pretty good. It identified the socks as fabric, which is accurate enough. And finally the power supply as a wire, which is also accurate. We don't have carpets in our apartment, but I'm testing a feature set here with a doormat anyway. If I go into the carpet cleaning setting for the app, it's set to dynamic lift, but there's also avoid, which goes around carpets, ignore, which cleans over things that can be mopped, like rubber mats. There's cross, where the robot will cross if necessary, but will lift the mop, and dynamic lift, which is when a carpet or mat is detected, the mop is lifted, and any water flow to the mop is paused during vacuuming. So in this example, the vac comes across the mat, and once upon it, the mop lifts itself as expected. And to give you a better view, here it is from the side showing the process in action. This device is primarily a vacuum, of course, and with 10,000 pascals of suction power, it should do a very decent job. Here's the dustbin to show you that it's totally empty prior to my test, and for this I'll set up a zone in the living room. I'll also set it to the second highest strength and do a double cleaning count. For the test I've got a mix of pigeon feed, some rice, and for a bit extra, some dog hairs. Nice. So once again I've sped up this clip for brevity, but as you'll see early on the clumps of hair are quite large, so it hesitates at first but eventually deals with them. It then does the same again later and initially worked around them, but once again does go back to clean them up. At first I was a little bit disappointed as I thought it had missed a few grains here and there, but it was actually only halfway through its task, so it cleaned across the original direction as seen here. Although the dirt would normally be collected at the base station, I'll empty the contents of the dust tray and weigh them. You can also see some of the grains are still in the machine, so I'll gather those and put them all together in a bag. The final part is to weigh what was collected, and as you'll hear, I was a bit surprised as the weigh-in was exactly the same as before. Wow, I'm surprised. On to mopping, and I'm going to use some black bean soy sauce for this test. It should be noted that for large spills, especially for thicker liquids like ketchup and sauces, it's best to clean the majority of the mess yourself, with the robot mopping really just down to a deep after clean, so to speak. In this case I'm going to set scrub intensity and water flow to the maximum level with the deep plus root option, but just one cleaning pass. Soon after it starts, it correctly identifies the spill, as you can see in the app. One thing that's not so great is the side brush does get into the mess. These brushes don't get a separate clean, so you'd have to clean them by hand essentially. The robot vac returns halfway to clean the mop, to return for a second pass before finally returning to the dock for its final mop cleaning.
Returning to dock.
If we now take a quick look at the mop, there barely seems to be any trace of the dark brown stains you'd expect to see from soy sauce, but emptying the dirty water, it's obvious to see it was cleared up effectively. Just quickly to the fill light now, and here's a bit of footage to show how bright it is in darkness. It needs to be able to identify objects using the reactive AI feature in order to avoid them, of course, so a little light helps with this. Onto the RGB camera, which can be accessed directly from the map screen in the Roborock app. I've limited access with a pattern passcode for restricted access, but you can turn access off totally. When the camera is active, the S8 will state this from the voice assistant every few seconds, so you always know if it's in use. Additionally, Roborock states that images captured are processed locally on device and are then deleted immediately. Here's some footage from the camera via my iPhone. Now I'll split the screen here so you can see what the view is like in both a room with and without lighting. You also get a mini map so you can see where you are, and you can access some controls as well as search for your pet, although I won't be doing that here. Onto a new feature, which is the built-in voice assistant they call Rocky. Here's a quick demonstration where it comes to clean the kitchen and living room, but I'll tell it to skip this area and then tell it to go back to the dock. Hey Rocky.
I'm here.
Skip here.
Okay, leaving the current area right now.
Hey Rocky.
I'm here.
Go back to dock.
Okay, end the current task and start docking.
The set of instructions available are reasonably decent and come in multiple languages, although these commands can't be customized. So if you have a main bedroom set up on the map as main bedroom, you'd have to refer to it as master bedroom when using Rocky. Here are all the commands you can use with Rocky. You can't add your own commands either, so for more custom actions, it's better to use Siri. I can't possibly go into all aspects of the Roborock app as there's just too much to cover, but in the app I can select between either of my vacuums, and selecting the S8 I can access the specific map for it. From here I can clean in a number of ways, including a full house clean, a room or rooms, I can clean a zone, and I can even access presets and custom routines. If I select rooms and I select a room, I can then go deeper and customize what type and level of cleaning for that room alone for both vacuuming and mopping, as well as the amount of times it cleans and whether it does a standard or quick cleaning route. For mopping only, you get 4 route options instead of 2, with deep plus, deep, standard and fast. For vacuum only, you get an extra powerful option labelled Max Plus. The settings panel alone has so many options I can't cover them all either, but you have cleaning history, I can create schedules which can also include custom routines. Even floor cleaning settings have a number of options that address specific areas of the home, as well as options for carpets and even the direction of your flooring. Even the dock has its own section for all manner of features, as does the reactive AI submenu. The list goes on really, but even spot cleaning and older features like pin and go are still present and very useful. For me, the fact that you can customize this cleaning schedule on a room by room basis and even set it so that a room gets mopped every Friday, whilst the kitchen can be mopped every 2 days, is amazingly useful for me. Finally, to the pros and cons, and it's all good, I'm happy to say, starting with how much more customizable everything is with the S8, especially compared to my old S6. It has taken things to a whole new level. Ever since I got the SwitchBot K10 Pro, I knew that auto dirt removal was for me, but with the S8 having a more robust mopping option and adding clean and dirty water tanks into the mix, this is my dream robot vacuum. As if that wasn't enough, the dock even cleans both the mop and itself, which is insanely good. In my tests, reactive AI and obstacle avoidance performed way better than I expected, although I'm not sure I could completely trust any robot vacuum 100% of the time. Thankfully, dog poop in my home is no longer an issue. The addition of the Rocky voice assistant takes this beyond many other robot vacs, in my opinion, simply down to things like telling it to go away if your room isn't ready for cleaning, but it can do much more. If Siri is preferable, of course, then you can use that too, so it's a win-win. It is Matter certified by all accounts, although the relevant update has not been issued. But I have to say, you're not missing anything for robot vacs in HomeKit right now anyway. When Apple Home finally gets it all sorted out, I have no doubt Roborock will issue the update, which will come soon after. Although with all these features I mentioned, I'm really not sure it's actually necessary. If you stayed with me this far, well done, as that was a long one. I've not been able to cover as much as I wanted, but if you have any questions on this product, feel free to ask in the comments section below. If you could like, share, or most especially subscribe if you haven't done so already, it would also be enormously appreciated. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.